Welcome to NocBro Nation.
Welcome back, guys. Jarrell here.
And I'm Josh, and today we're talking about Dead City, Walking Dead, Dead City. Lauren Cohan talking about Maggie's greatest weakness will be exposed in this series.
Ooh, what could that be? Many different possibilities, but before we read this article, I'm probably leaning towards Herschel, and I wouldn't say not her feelings towards Negan, but there's probably a piece of that. But I think her weakness is probably going to be the vulnerability towards Herschel, kids in general. But I think also maybe the weakness just because, it's Maggie and Negan again together after we saw them in the finale, seem like they were able to not really,
they were able to move on, I guess.
In a sense.
I wouldn't say completely move on
Not
from
completely.
Maggie's sense, but they were able to, I guess, take a step in the right direction, is what you want to call it.
Not full reconcile, but hey, look, I know you're trying. We're both trying.
Do you think she forgives him at the end of this series?
That's a good question. That'll be definitely a video we'll be doing as we get more info and as we get into the series. But I would like to see something get fully resolved by the end. You know what I mean?
You would think so.
You would think it would.
Time heals wounds.
Exactly.
All wounds.
Bygones.
Eventually. Bygones.
Bygones. Yeah, somebody
Who said that?
That was from Black Summer.
Okay, yeah.
And I
that's
mentioned that in our comments, and I did see somebody say that. Like, they probably saw Black Summer too. They were like, bygones.
Bygones.
Yeah, bygones. So she gave an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and of course, nothing stays good for very long in the Walking Dead world, and it seems good times will no longer be rolling when things pick up in April in AMC's Maggie and Negan spinoff. So, according to Maggie, Lauren Cohan herself, we end up picking up in New York at the bottom of a really unexpected mountain, where maybe things have gone well for a period of time, but we're back at this challenge, just like these challenges that always seem to be cropping up. Now, it is still, I don't think it's fully confirmed yet, but even Lauren Cohan states that this series does pick up at minimum about 2 years after the finale.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. So as Dead City picks up a few years after, the question, of course, remains as to what happened in those unseen years, for those two to come together and go to New York. And Lauren Cohan says, nothing is through rose-colored glasses, because the thing that comes up, it's like, okay, so we overcame this obstacle of the Commonwealth and these things. That doesn't mean life is easy just because you quashed one enemy. And the enemy in this is this moving target. It's also the enemy within. That's interesting.
That's interesting.
Yes. I mean, we're thinking, at the end of this finale, life is just going to be exotic and great, and our communities are going to thrive, which I'm sure they are, but they're still going to have to deal with walkers, any other enemies that come about, but we have to leave it up to our imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
she said mountain. I'm guessing that's symbolic.
Unexpected mountain.
Yeah. Because there's not a mountain is there mountains in New York?
I'm sure. Well, I'm not in New York.
Not talking
but
like the Rockies. But
not in New York, but I'm sure
guessing
there's
that's a figurative
speech.
Yeah. But yeah, I get. Yeah. Is there more?
Yes. So while Cohen will not reveal the specific event or incident that gets her and Negan back together in the Big Apple, she does mention the word parenting a few times in our chat. This is according to the article, who wrote the article, and also reveals that. Quote, Lauren Cohan says, when we go into the show, Maggie's greatest weakness is definitely exploited. Sometimes it's not the big things that are hard things, it's the little things. And those little things become very, very big things because they are our own blind spots and they are our own greatest weakness. She still doesn't say it now. I mean,
it's very vague.
The interviewer says she says parenting a lot, so it's got to have something to do with Herschel, kids. I'm not sure if it's going to be, Negan and Annie's kid. 2 years. So if she had the baby, the kid's like 2 years old at least.
Year and a half,
2 years. Yeah.
Maybe.
So, one final thing that she mentioned, she says, it's going to be really, really hard for her to continue, even with the best intentions she had for letting Negan have his territory and her getting on with her life and finding the hope and trying to build this future.
Do you notice that? That line, letting Negan have his territory.
Now, I'm not taking, I think I know where you're trying to think of.
I'm not saying he's ruling anything.
Right. But I think I don't think Negan has like a territory. I think
you think she means letting him live on,
letting him have his space. Yeah, in his own wherever him and Annie are living, maybe just a small community of some of the survivors of Annie's group. So
maybe he's running shit again.
I don't know. We did a video, guys, talking about how Jeffrey D. Morgan did say that Negan's old ways could return.
But I don't mean running shit again as in the ruthless leader. I mean maybe because he's naturally going to be a leader.
He's naturally going to be a leader.
He's always going to be a leader. Just go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And he doesn't have to be a ruthless leader. It's just he's done it before. And look, he may have learned from what he did wrong, having several wives and taking them away from people and burning people's faces. Look, we learn from those things.
What I was going to say was, yes, Negan is a natural born leader, but it kind of felt like him and Annie, either she was in charge or they kind of ran it together. It seemed like they were in it together. They made the decisions together. They worked really well together. But because it was more of Annie's group and Negan was just there and he eventually, they fell in love and got married, I think it's more of Annie was the leader. When Negan came on, they're working together, but I still think that Annie is kind of more of the leader-ish.
Yeah,
than Negan is.
But Annie also grounded him.
Yes.
And here's the deal: we don't know Annie's status.
We don't. We're assuming she's still good because we didn't see her in the finale. But
by the time we get to this series, is she still around? I'd like her to be. But does something happen to her? Mm-hmm. And does Negan, not take that very well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think kind of. It's very vague. I mean, she's not going to give a lot of details away, to spoil it. So. Talking her greatest weakness, yes, I think it's
it's obviously Herschel.
It's Herschel, and I think it's also with Negan too, because like she said, she's dealing with Negan. She over these last 2 years before the series started, she left Negan to have his own territory, so to speak, meaning his own space. She's still trying to deal with everything that happened, and then now, whatever reason that brings them back together, and they're going to New York. Her weakness is going to be even greater exploited, depending on if it is something with Herschel, if it is something with Annie and Negan's kid, and then just the fact of working together with Negan, going very far away from Virginia to New York, and
look, she's had to be away from him for 2 years. Let's assume, and
for Negan,
and when whatever happens brings them back together, and she's going to have to revisit a lot of those emotions that she had at the end of the series, and look. She's probably going to see him again, and the hatred is going to probably come to fruition first, and then she's going to have to battle that, saying, "Hey, look, I want to kill this guy every time I see him," and she's going to have to battle those demons to get to where she was at the end of the finale, to where we saw, where she's not necessarily forgiving him, but accepting that he can live. Essentially.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to come up. I think, like you said, where the hatred might come back for Maggie, even though we didn't, she kind of, in a sense, said to Negan that, we're cool, we're trying, even though every time I look at you, I just see the swinging back coming down. But as they're together and we know Negan's personality, he's going to jab at her feelings a little bit and mess with her. And it's going to bring those feelings back to where she's like, okay, I don't know. I don't apologize anymore. I just want to kill you now.
I mean, how can it not? Right?
It's gonna happen.
Look, her husband was killed in front of her. I don't have to say this, but I was watching TikTok the other day, and that scene came on my feed.
Yeah.
And instead of the faces, it so happened to be the Colts was Negan.
Oh yeah,
because there was a blowout in American football.
Yeah.
And the Vikings was covering Glenn's face.
Yeah.
We all know how that game turned out. But anyway,
that's hilarious.
Watching that scene again as a viewer is brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And I honestly, I don't think I'll ever be able to watch that fully through. I'll have to skip that if I ever decide to watch that again, because it was that brutal. Imagine her.
Yeah. I mean, he took in that scene, he basically, when he found out, when she reacted that way and he found out like, oh, you guys were together. In a sense, Negan didn't give a shit. He was just he was just like, okay, well, you guys are together. Well, here he is with his head exposed. Like, But knowing how he feels now and knowing everything that he's done to try to make amends, knowing that it probably will never happen, but he's going to do what he can. He's already saved Herschel's life, and Maggie appreciates everything that he's done. She really has. I mean, that's how good of a character and person Maggie is. She is really thankful for saving Herschel's life and for everything that he's done. But the underlying issue is the evil thing that he did to take away the man that she loved, and she'll never love anyone like that again, and taking away the father of Herschel. Yes, they can work together. It's going to be hard. And
it is going to be hard.
She knows how Negan can just get at her.
Well, we've seen it in the very few
plenty of times.
Well, not even just that. Even in the promo photos of this series, we've seen it. Like they're fighting.
They're fighting.
They are literally fighting in one shot. So that tells me Negan probably said something that he shouldn't have said.
He's gonna like he said, his old ways are coming back. He's gonna do it. So yeah, guys, this series is really, as we've said, it's really exciting for us. We're just waiting to find out the actual true meaning as to the issue or the event that leads them back together to go. But I definitely see Maggie's weaknesses and vulnerabilities truly exposed with being with Negan alone on a journey. Most definitely.
No.
And I can't wait to find out how they both will navigate that, their feelings. We know how Negan is, he was literally begging for Maggie's forgiveness and ended up, crying after that conversation because he understands everything that she said and everything that he's done. And it will, that's the biggest thing though, is these events that happened in this 2 years before this journey, 2 years is a long time. So a lot has happened between those two characters, and then
not happened.
And then we finally get them in the series and we see how it goes. It's going to be cool. It's going to be really cool. So guys, let us know your thoughts on Maggie's biggest weaknesses and vulnerabilities being exposed in this new series when Maggie and Negan get together. Still let us know your theories as to why they do go to New York. We kind of have a heavy suspicion it has something to do with Herschel. It has something to do with Annie and the kids. We're not really sure right now if it's anything CRM related, because I think AMC really wants to build a bigger franchise. And stay tuned for another video we're going to be talking about that could pose those kind of questions. But definitely, for sure. Let us know your thoughts, guys. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and stay tuned for more with Dead City from us. I'm Jarrell.
I'm Josh.
We're NocBro Nation.
We're out.